Hello, my name is Mary Moore, and I'm a member of the League of Women Voters of Thurston County. The League of Women Voters is a nonpartisan, nonprofit organization, a political organization that encourages the informed and active participation of citizens in government. And the League is open, despite its name, to everybody, men and women included. This morning we are meeting with candidates for a variety of elections that will occur in November. And we are going to give them an opportunity to tell you what they think about a variety of things. First of all, we would like to thank TCTV very much for making this possible. We can always count on them to help us whenever this happens. They are very, very much a part of encouraging citizen participation in politics. Thank you. This morning we have with us two gentlemen who are vying for a position on the Olympia City Council. We have the incumbent, Steve Langer, and we have his opponent, his challenger, shall we say, Democritus Blantayre. Each gentleman will have 2 minutes in which to give their opening remarks, and then they will respond to various questions that I will ask them. And so why don't we start right away with you, Steve, and 2 minutes, sir.
Okay, great, thank you. And I just wanted to thank the League of Women Voters for this forum. I think it's a really great opportunity to get out here and to be able to get to know some more people through these programs. Since I was appointed to the Olympia City Council in last May, and I ended up being in this position. I've been in this position now for over a year and a half. Since I've been on the City Council, I've done a number of things. I've I helped preserve the corridor of Legion Way with the trees, where we made sure that we took care of the trees that are there as best we could, took out the ones that were actually endangering people, and then made sure that we continue that beautiful view corridor. In addition, I've been active in trying to, getting homelessness prevention money from the budget so that we can actually leverage about $2 million worth of federal funds to help with homelessness. I plan to do a number of different things. I'm on the Land Use and Environment Committee as the chair, and we're working on the Shoreline Management Program and the Comprehensive Plan, and I intend to maintain the environmental values that Olympia has in that process. In addition, I've been involved in the downtown project and have spearheaded an effort to try to make downtown Olympia safe and welcoming for all. So we've been working on a number of projects in that area.
Thank you. Thank you. Democritus?
Okay. Well, a wise man once said that the test of an idea is how well it performs in action. You see, now let's consider the Republican idea. What is the Republican idea? Republican government is where you have a select few who are actually appointed into positions where they monopolize all of the political power, the legislative political power. You see, that's the kind of system we have, a representative republic. How is it working for us at the national level? It's an abject failure. Just look at how our economy is poised at the brink of chaos. You see, just look at the imperial wars of aggression, the Patriot Act. These are all policies that are against the wishes of the vast majority of people in the United States and are extremely unwise and are extremely destructive to this country, you see. Now, I'm of the opinion that people who are significantly affected by something should have amongst them direct and amongst all of them, equal means to decide the outcome of the thing in question that affects them. Now, the city of Olympia's government significantly affects the lives of its citizens through the taxes that are levied, how those tax revenues are spent, and with regards to the laws that we're forced to obey. So therefore, I think that all the citizens should have a means available to us whereby we can directly and amongst all of us equally decide upon these various aspects of the city's government that affect us. Now, it turns out that not only are we going to get real freedom with this particular sort of political system, but we're also in the sense that we're going to be the ones that decide upon the crucial aspects of our lives that involve the city's government. But we are also going to get far better decisions that are going to be made, because there are going to be, with the whole population of Olympia, if you divide it out amongst the city council members, there are 6,800 Olympians for every one single council member. In my humble opinion, 6,800 heads are better than one. We're going to get far better decisions that are going to be made, but we're also going to have a system that is immune to and impervious to corruption, such that we're not, all right, that's it.
Thank you. Thank you. Now I have some questions for both of you. And why don't I start with Steve? And you have 2 minutes to respond to this question. Democritus, you have 1 minute to respond to what Steve has said. Please focus on the question. This question is as follows. Olympia has been described as having a strong city manager and a weak city council. Do you agree with this statement? If so, would it be beneficial for the city to have the council develop a stronger role? How might this be accomplished?
Yeah, that's a great question. I do agree with your statement that there is a strong city manager and relatively weak city council. In fact, a lot of times people think that the mayor of the city has some sort of special powers, and he or she actually does not. The mayor runs the meeting and does some organizing, but essentially is another city council member for the purpose of the governance. Now, the thing is that the city council sets policy, and the city manager is the one who implements it. Also, in our current system, the city council has 2 people that they hire, the city manager and the hearings examiner, and nobody else. So the city manager actually hires and fires people on the staff rather than having the city council have any power over that. And so the challenge we face as a city council is that we have to do everything through the city manager, essentially. Because he, in this case, Steve Hall, runs the city. And I actually think that Steve is a good city manager. But the way that we set things up, it's very difficult for us to actually be able to make changes in terms of personnel, in terms of sort of how things are done, other than setting the policy for the city manager. And I would prefer to have a strong city manager, city council, and mayor kind of government, and have the balance shifted more towards city council. Now, the thing is that there is something that we can do about that, and one of them would be to have the city council each have a staff person that works with them, because every week we get overwhelmed with information and we sort through it all and we try to work with each other to create good policy. But if we had somebody who could work with each of us to make some of those things, to explore some more of that, and then help us to implement changes, that would shift the balance more towards the city council.
Democritus.
Well, as I see it, I've spoken to a lot of people in the city of Olympia, and a sentiment that has been conveyed to me, which I happen to agree with, is that a lot of times with this particular form of government, what you have is you have people that enter into the city council who enter in there not really knowing what's going on. They're a babe in the woods. They don't know what to do, you see. And the thing is about the city manager is that the city manager has been in there for many years. So the city manager really knows the score, whereas the people in the city council don't have much of a clue about what's going on a lot of times. And so with that difference in knowledge, you get a vast difference in power. The way to alleviate this kind of situation is to make it so that we have more of a continuity amongst the legislative branch of our government. The ultimate way to do this is to make it so that all of the citizens of Olympia are the ones who are directly and continuously making the city's laws and rules, such that there will be a lot more experience to draw from and a lot more diversity of perspectives to draw from. So there can't be this vast difference of level of information that can be taken, that can be used by a city manager to have more power over the legislative branch. This is accomplished with a direct democracy effectively.
Thank you. Thank you. Now this time we're going to start with you for the next question, Democritus. In this time of tight budgets, do you think current city services can be sustained? Would you favor a vote to raise additional revenue by increasing the levy limit? Why or why not?
Well, I would favor a vote not only on this particular issue, but on every sort of issue, because after all, as I said before, we're the ones who ultimately have to live with the consequences of these decisions that are made inside of our city's government, you see. And so as a consequence, we should therefore be the ones who make the ultimate decision as to what is to take place with regards to our city's policy. Now, the thing is that I trust far more in the collective intelligence and the collective wisdom and the virtuousness of the decisions that would be rendered by a body of people deciding on an issue who are in the thousands than I would trust in the mere than I would trust in the perspectives of those who consist of a mere 7 people, you see. And I do think that city services can be continued, you see, but there needs to be a fundamentally different sort of approach towards our political system than what is, and financing of various governmental services than what is currently the case. The United States, it's very strange because, see, a lot of people think that ordinary folks, ordinary citizens are incapable of governing themselves. Well, consider that most people have to live in a real world personal economy such that they can't keep running up endless amounts of debt and then postponing payments into perpetuity, and then in order to pay the current debt obligations, just racking up some more debt. You see, people have to live with real consequences of such faulty financial philosophical approach, you see. And it's that kind of wisdom that that is brought into a government when you have ordinary people who are empowered to make decisions within the government.
Steve, would you like to respond to that?
Yeah, could you ask the question again? I just
Certainly.
want to make sure I respond to it properly.
In this time of tight budgets, do you think current city services can be sustained? Would you favor a vote to raise additional revenue by increasing the city levy limit? Why or why not?
Okay. Yes, I think that we really face a fiscal crisis, and it's an ongoing systemic one. The city has already cut about 9% of its budget over the last couple of years. In addition, for this next year, we face looking at finding another over $2 million worth of savings that we have to take out of what are city services. So there's no question that under the current funding formula that we have to deal with cutting city services, and there's no way around that. I would favor that at some point that we do look at our funding formula and see if it would make sense to change that in a way that stops some of those systemic problems, and having looking at levy lifts or other things like that would be a useful discussion to have, but it would always be up to a vote of the people rather than the city council to make those decisions.
All right, now for you, Steve, here is the next question, and it pertains, I think, to something that you are particularly aware of. Olympia is currently developing a new shoreline master program, which it will determine the future of the shoreline. What do you see as optimal use of the shoreline for the city of Olympia?
Well, I think that's a great question, because I think that's something that's been very much up to debate, and there's been quite a bit of controversy. I understand that the Planning Commission has been sort of stuck on that question to some degree, and there's been some very vigorous debate back and forth among the planning commissioners about what we should do. And actually, I really appreciate that debate, because I think that that kind of debate is something that really fleshes out the important issues that we need to deal with in terms of our shoreline in Olympia. Now, in my opinion, the shoreline of Olympia, depending on where you are, has different functions. And I think that we need to be respectful of what those functions are, while at the same time making sure that we are taking care of the environmental issues that we face, as well as looking at things like sea level rise, which we will be facing, so that we don't add a whole lot of infrastructure and a whole lot of expensive buildings that we then either need to abandon or spend money that we don't have to protect. So I think we are dealing with a lot of really tricky issues about what we should do where, but I think we should first of all have it be localized so that for example, along Priest Point Park, it's kind of a no-brainer that we want to make sure that we protect the beautiful park that we have there and have essentially no development. But that in other areas, like in more urbanized areas, that we need to look at what are the current uses, what sort of uses do we foresee possible given that there is going to be sea level rise, and then what do we allow to have put in place so that either we don't have to protect it, or that if we do, that it makes sense to do that, or that the shoreline, that there's enough of a rise that we can have development that doesn't create the kind of problems that then we will have to fix later on.
Mm-hmm. Democritus, what do you think?
Well, what I think firstly is that there's a lot of counterproductive and ecologically devastating approaches towards interacting with the environment that our culture and our city currently engages in and accepts as normal, but these are fundamental assumptions that should be questioned, and I would hope would enter into this debate about the shoreline master plan. One of the first things is certain anoxic environments tend to get generated with the discharging of sewer effluent. You see, sewage effluent. Not only that, but you have a very nitrogen-rich discharge, which tends to facilitate algal blooms, right? And the problem is that there needs to be struck a balance between development and environmental sustainability, and I think such is achievable with a much higher amount of information and awareness about the issues, and that is achievable with the collective intelligence of all the people in Olympia together.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, Democritus, you have this next question to chew on. Do you believe a civilian arbiter of some sort is needed to review claims of police misconduct?
Well, as I see it, a single person being charged with this particular task, that sort of dooms it to failure, because it makes it so that there's a bottleneck of power. It makes it so that there's only one person that has access to the information about how police accountability is taking place, and it makes it so it is a general rule, it's a general truth in politics that if you concentrate power into a smaller number of people's hands, the more you do that, the more such a political system or entity is subject to corruption, you see, or manipulation, or criminal manipulation. Conversely, the more you actually distribute power in an egalitarian fashion, the more it is the case that government is both more transparent and more impervious toward criminal manipulation, you see. Consider this. It's far easier to blackmail or bribe one person or a small handful of people than it is to do so, or to otherwise corrupt them, than it is to do so with tens of thousands of people, or even more numerous, or even greater numbers of people, you see. I mean, not just for the simple economic reason that it becomes extraordinarily difficult to have the kinds of finances necessary in order to engage in such massive bribery, you see, and the fact that any sort of remuneration that one would expect to get through ill-gotten vending machine legislation would not compensate the entity for the kinds of manipulation they engaged in, but also for the simple fact that the more people you have to manipulate in this way, right, the more likely it is that there's going to be somebody squealing. So here's the thing. There should be police accountability. I'm not, however, against the police, but there's going to be a lot more accountability for all branches of our government when the people are in power altogether.
Thank you. Steve, would you like me to
Please
ask the question
restate
again?
the question, yeah.
Yes. Do you believe a civilian arbiter of some sort is needed to review claims of police misconduct?
Well, actually, a couple of things first. First of all, I think that police misconduct is always unacceptable, and we need to do what we can to prevent that. And actually, I think there are a number of ways to do that. We've had an arbiter, or rather somebody who reviewed police decisions and incidents in the past. And in my experience, we haven't gotten a lot of value for the money for that, because they essentially agreed pretty much with what the police internal investigations had already said. In addition, the police internal investigations, it turns out, are actually tougher than civilian boards are on police officers. So actually, I think as long as we do a good job of making sure that we have the right people in the right places, that the system we have now is the system that works best.
Thank you. Thank you. Okie dokie. Now, Steve, realizing that budget affects almost everything, what two major challenges, other than budget, do you think you will face as a member of the City Council, and how will you deal with them?
Yes, I think it's really difficult to separate out budget from non-budget items, but I think there are a number of things that we can do to make downtown more safe and welcoming for everyone. For example, one of the things that we're looking at is initiating an alcohol impact area in that downtown area, so that cheap, high-octane beers and so on are not easily available in the downtown to cut down on public drunkenness. That's something that, although it'll take some budget, it'll take very little budget. Another thing that I think will have an impact, but I think will be really helpful, is to have an area in the downtown where we look at potential blight and designate it as such, and then make ourselves eligible for federal matching funds and for public-private partnerships, so that we can then help contain that area and put it to good use in combination with private developers. And so that we actually leverage the money, and I'm looking for something like a ratio of 1 to 7 or higher of 1 public dollar for every 7 private dollars, to make sure that we continue to properly develop downtown and keep it vibrant and alive. So those are a couple of things. Another thing I think that we can do is by having clear, well thought out, doable regulations of things like shorelines, that yes, that has a budget impact, but if we do that properly, we can actually end up having a really great place to live, where everybody wants to come, and that will help actually improve our commerce downtown and in Olympia in general.
Thank you.
That was actually 3 items, I guess.
That's all right. Democritus.
Okay. As I see it, there are a couple of primary challenges that we face. The first challenge is to make it so that we are the ones, we ourselves, the people, citizens of Olympia, are the ones who are making these important decisions that govern our lives. Because when we actually do that, then we're able to have, with this power and with the collective intelligence of all the people of Olympia, many solutions, many much more effective solutions to a lot of the problems that seem with the current system unsolvable, right? Because there's a much greater capacity of all of us to pool our ideas and experiences together. And as I see it, we also need to develop within ourselves a culture where we take personal responsibility for our actions, and where we also simultaneously have respect for the rights and liberties of others. Now, as I see it, we need to work together with each other and respect each other's freedom and respect each other's ways of life rather than trying to make others conform to our own philosophy.
Okay. All right. Well, here's another question for you. Parking downtown has been seen as a long-time problem for the city's shoppers. Do you think the electronic parking meters are the solution?
Okay, this is a really easy one. Let me just say that of the vast majority of people that I've spoken to about this particular issue, they have said resoundingly that they do not want them, and they have voiced many meaningful complaints about the operations of these things. I mean, the first problem that comes to my mind is that it's from BP. These machines come from BP, the same company that was responsible for the massive amount of environmental devastation that took place in the Gulf. Why is the city of Olympia working with them and giving our city's funds to a kind of company like this? They should be boycotted by everyone, including the city of Olympia. And for that matter, all the other corporations that engage in unjust activities, they should also be boycotted by the city's government. We should pick who we reward in the marketplace, you see. So beyond all that, the machines just don't work. They're a lot of times they're very inconvenient. But here's the thing. Here's the clincher, okay? The city of Olympia, who is to run it? Who is it to belong to? We're the residents of the city of Olympia. We're the citizens in the city of Olympia. We should be the ones to choose whether we're going to have parking meters or not. We should be the ones to choose what kind of solution should be put into place with regards to parking. And what has happened is the imposition of these particular machines, when there's been an overwhelming majority of people in Olympia against them, including businesses and individuals, is just anathema, just wrong. The government should never be autocratic. The government should never act against the wishes of the people. Instead, public policy should at all times be a manifestation of the wishes of the people, because we're paying for it and we have to live with it. And with the sort of changes I hope to bring about in government, that is a direct democracy, and in which we make all the public policy decisions, we get a conformity to the wishes of the population.
Steve, would you like to respond?
Yes, actually. The parking pay stations issue has been a thorn in my side since we started them. By the time I got on city council, the city had already spent $700,000 to purchase these things, and they were ready to be installed. And I voted to get them installed because we were stuck with the bill and we couldn't afford not to do that. So just in purely pragmatic terms, we had kind of a bad product, but it was the only thing we had, and it's something that we had to go with at the time. I do agree that it is not a I don't like them at all, and I much rather see parking meters. But I think by having paid downtown parking, we solved one problem while creating another. We solved the problem of having parking spaces available, but we've created the problem of having a really inconvenient technology that doesn't work well. And I think we should continue to do things to reduce their footprint downtown and install more parking meters where we can.
Thank you, thank you. Well, both of you, nice job on these questions. Now, each one of you has 1 minute to say your last and final words. So, Democritus, we'll start with you. 1 minute.
Okay. As I see it, I firstly want to say that this sort of change that I hope to bring about in the city of Olympia is something that has ample precedent. There are more places currently that have adopted this system than I can mention here. Some of them have been doing this successfully for centuries. Some of them have a very substantial population along the levels of the city of Olympia. Consider also when trying to figure out whether this proposal that I have to make us all, the citizens, directly the ones who have power and responsibility to make the city's laws and rules, consider that with modern electronic media, such a proposal is made all the more feasible. Now, as I see it, there will be something of a renaissance that will take place here in the city of Olympia. This is the kind of change that needs to take place in our political system, and it solves so many of our political and social problems. It can start right here. We're going to have economic and social renaissance.
Thank you. Steve.
Well, first of all, thank you again for providing this forum. I think this was really great. I have really enjoyed my time on the City Council since last May, and I look forward to continuing to serve on the City Council if the voters of Olympia allow me to do so. I think there are some really great projects that we've started. I'm really hopeful, actually, about downtown based on the work that we're doing in a kind of comprehensive way with a downtown project to address the problems that downtown has to make it safe and welcoming for all. In addition, I think that that there are just a lot of really good things that can happen when good people work hard on difficult issues. And with the current budget problems, we're really facing a new normal. We are not, given the structural issues with the budget, we need to continue to work hard to provide the basic services that people come to expect while trying to work hard with the private and with the public to make sure that we really leverage all the dollars that we have. And so I hope that you can vote for Steve Langer for City Council for position number 2.
And on that note, I would like to remind everybody watching at this time, please do not forget to vote. Your vote is critical. It is an opportunity and a blessing. And thank you very much for tuning in.